We need like a new Brady version on there. Like, I didn't leave my wife and kids for the show. That would be good. I think that would work really, really well. I would say. You know what I'm talking about? Know what I'm talking about? You guys know. Go Padres.
I know what you mean, Vern.
Ted's just figuring his mic out. He's ghost talking us. That's cool. That's cool.
That's weird. I was muted, but I couldn't unmute myself. Did you mute me?
I didn't touch a button.
Sounds likely.
Look where my hands are. You can't. I'm not touching nothing.
Did you guys see the picture from Robert Kraft's wedding with Brady in there and like Bledsoe?
Oh, that'd be
weird. The former teammates,
Elton John and Ed Sheeran being in there.
Oh, cool.
I mean, just because we were talking about Brady, I thought I'd bring it up.
That's cool. What happened? Is it a good picture?
Nothing. I don't know if you've seen the picture yet, but he looks like a skeleton. It's kind of weird looking. It's not your classic handsome Brady. I was really thrown off by it.
There was that one tweet. It said like, I think it was Brady at a press conference, and it said it was like if Mark Wahlberg played Tom Brady playing Mark Wahlberg in a movie or something like that. It's not good.
Actually looks like he's dying.
Well, his team is that's for sure. Welcome to That Helps No One FantasyCast. Not that helps anyone, or that doesn't help anyone, or
that helps some people.
That helps some people. That helps no one. FantasyCast on the Dean Blundell Network. You can follow along on our YouTube page, which is now live. Feel free to comment along. You can also go on our Twitter account at THNO FantasyCast, because that's where we also are. And and I'm good with English. Wow. I'm really hoping the teacher's going to take over in a second here. We've got that's how I roll. That's how I roll. Speaking of all my fantasy picks as well, I crash and burn. We've got the boys from the Ballhawks podcast. You probably saw them last night after Monday Night Football. Good show last night, boys. Chris and Steve. First of all, Chris, welcome.
What's going on, guys?
You're looking great in that hoodie.
No blanket today?
No
tissue boxes, tube of Vaseline.
Still trying to get the stains out of the blanket. Hey, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but like I learned something really cool on the weekend.
Okay.
Here's a factoid of Chris.
Know that if you shave your balls, it makes it look everything look bigger down there.
It's like you
do you want to see? Do you want to see? That's it.
Go for it. See what it's got. Let's see what you got. That was it. I already showed you. Oh yeah. Man, that's funny. Steve, also, hello, welcome.
I don't know why I do this.
How are you gonna? I was gonna say, how do you top that? I don't think you can.
Welder.
He's a piece of work. And then, it's. I don't know. I do always want to run for the hills once Chris makes his first comment to the show. That's for sure. And then
he's getting more ballsy with it. I'm not gonna lie.
Literally. And then my good friend Ted on the PP1 podcast, also on this show. If it wasn't for him, we would only have 3 people on the show. Welcome, Ted.
It's like a wolf pack thing.
Yeah, something like that. Something along those lines. I think it's like
you rescued me from the roof.
That's what we did.
Caesar's Palace. I'm here.
How about that drive in?
You guys just checking the roof first. That was really helpful.
Yeah, Vegas, huh? How about that drive in? Pretty awesome. You guys, week 6 was something else. It was a lot of things. It was not good. That's for sure. Bye weeks were introduced. We found out that bye weeks and injuries, in my case, are pretty much my demise, unfortunately. But that's okay. No one's complaining. It's not like I'm 2-4 now and watching my entire team dwindle away before my eyes. That's fine. It's fine.
Hasn't your team been dwindling away since you drafted it?
Yeah, pretty much. You guys pretty much said that, Ryan. I'm pretty sure your team's going to dwindle away. And that was pretty much as I was making my pick in round 17.
Well, when you do things like trade a first for a star receiver and then trade a star receiver for a good rookie and a throwaway piece, I mean, you could be doing more.
Hey, they treated him like a throwaway piece. He wasn't a throwaway piece until last night.
It's actually fine. I'm just trying.
I cried a lot watching that game. I thought there was two things I was looking forward to. Either I was going to get 50 yards out of Melvin Gordon, which didn't seem likely in that game, or the Chargers win and I tie for first place in our work pick'em. And it quickly became that I was more excited about a mean nothing pick'em league. So this goes to show you where that game was going and where my fantasy season has gone. You guys, I did want to bring up that it is absolute farce. I'm pretty sure I'm going to call it quits on fantasy football at some point this week. Cam Akers, Robbie Anderson, there's a few other guys, Christian McCaffrey. We got trade block guys. We've got guys that have been traded. We were talking before we went on air about Cam Akers. Any Ted, you didn't really voice your opinion on this. If you were to guess, where do you think Cam Akers is going to go?
Oh boy, I don't know. I see Cam Akers could end up in a place like, and Steve, obviously you're going to know a lot better than this, but I could see him going to a place like Baltimore where they could use an extra running back. Just the amount of injuries that are going on there. I could also see him ending up in a place like Arizona.
That's what I said. I look
weirdness going on there.
Cool.
But I mean, the NFL is so hard to project. I feel like when it comes to trades and even what guys are getting in value. I mean, we saw Amari Cooper move this year for a 5th round draft pick. Like, wacky stuff happens. I didn't see Cooper going to the Browns. And a really good player, right? I think at the end of the day, I'm still having a hard time envisioning what player Cam Akers is, though. So I have a hard time seeing what offense he's going to fit into because we don't even know what kind of player he is, honestly.
That's fair.
That's so. I don't. The Rams aren't sending Akers to the Cardinals. They're not keeping him in that division.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Anyways, but I think if it first comes to head, I'm thinking of like teams that are lacking in running back depth that have explosives for players. The Cardinals are there, but yeah, that makes perfect sense. You're not going to trade within the division.
When Steve and I were talking about it last night, I mean, the 49ers popped in my head too, because like they seem to always be looking for running backs, but again, same thing. They're not trading them within that division.
Okay, then let's flip the script on Cam Akers for a second. What about McCaffrey? All of a sudden, there's a market for that because I think it sounded like multiple firsts, though. I mean, in the NFL, multiple firsts that's a lot of future you're giving up for a running back. As good as he is, I mean, he's not an offensive lineman. He's not a safety. He's not a linebacker. He doesn't do all the defensive things.
If you can have Christian McCaffrey, but you have to give up 2 first-round picks, and let's be honest, in the last couple of years, he hasn't been able to stay fully healthy. When he's healthy, he's far and away the best dual threat running back in the league. It's not even a question, in my opinion.
Unless he's being dogged by a coach,
Even then, he's still putting up ridiculous numbers for what a running back normally does. He's just not putting up old Christian McCaffrey numbers. So you can do that for 2 first-round picks, or you can go to the Rams and say, hey, we have a 5th round pick for a guy you don't feel like keeping. Cam Akers is still 23. We don't know what he is,
but it's a 5th.
On the team, it's a 5th. I'm more likely to roll the dice on that. And Cam Akers has more eligible years on his rookie contract as opposed to picking up Christian McCaffrey's big contract that he just signed.
Yeah.
To be fair, the Seahawks did draft Tariq Woolen in the 5th round this year. To be fair.
Mm-hmm. To be fair,
could you
see? I mean, back to the. Go ahead. Sorry,
I just got to add this one in because we were talking about this just before we came on, and I actually think there's possibly a little bit of merit to this when Ryan was like, "Where is Cam Akers going to get traded to?" After last night's game, and you were just talking about Melvin Gordon, could this be something the Broncos do like out of desperation? I could see it being the Broncos. I could also see it being Vegas if they're not happy with Josh Jacobs or they need a little bit of security blanket there. Chris and I talked about this one, which might be a bit of a shocker, but somewhere like the Tennessee Titans, if they are competing for a division and they need somebody who, if the unthinkable happens again and Derrick Henry goes down, you've got a guy that has proven that he can carry the team.
Or you go flash and dash like CJ and Lindell White were going for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've put more thought into the McCaffrey thing too, but it's just crazy. I've put even more thought into what this means for Carolina if McCaffrey goes, and all of a sudden what fantasy projections are going to be out there for guys like Deonta Foreman and moving forward and Chuba Hubbard and guys like that.
Yeah.
But like, imagine if McCaffrey ends up in Buffalo. Like, it's not out of the realm, right? But I mean,
I would have to make him the Great White Buffalo.
Yeah. What a nickname.
I mean, there's the Bills, there's the Eagles. I mean, the Niners obviously come up in this conversation again because, like you said, they're always looking for running backs. But like, imagine if he somehow ended up in Buffalo. Like, wouldn't that be the time in Buffalo after going to all these finals and not getting it done year after year after year? You have a team, you have a quarterback, you have all the pieces, and then you could top it off by giving up a couple of first-round draft picks and getting a guy like Christian McCaffrey. I don't know. I could see them something crazy happening just for that reason.
Steve, you brought up, like you said, coming out of nowhere, and I thought that was so funny that you mentioned that because this came up.
How about if you get a little taste of Landon Dickerson coming right down your throat?
I just figured that. Wait, how do you say that on
with a straight face?
Yeah,
a straight face, exactly, as if it's
got to be on purpose, right?
Yeah. Little.
It's so quiet.
It's a little bit iffy. Deshaun Jackson also signed with the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know if he's going to be stealing any catches away like Ted did on the weekend with me at ball. But I mean,
my goodness.
We're bringing it. We're making this happen right now.
Yeah.
Put up your dukes.
So, are you guys on the same team?
Yeah. Given a little context to this, we're in our baseball playoffs on the weekend on a very recreational team.
Very
recreational team. Ryan's playing center field, looking great out there. He's got his tight pants on. He went a little multicolored socks, which I thought was
had a hole in the other one. That's why.
So. Yeah, he usually he's very uniformed in that, and the ball gets hit. Not a pop-up, not a liner, kind of something in between. It's heading right for Ryan. He's got his glove out. He's basically just waiting for this thing to come in.
Like the flight path, the arc, gonna land in my glove.
Yeah, it's just like it's got a target for Ryan's glove, and everybody on the field is just watching Ryan's glove because it's so obviously going to Ryan. And in the last second, Ted comes swooping in and just grabs the catch right away from him.
Like I'm talking, our gloves almost made love to each other. That's how close they were.
And the whole crowd, the other team, our team, people in the stands are just ragging on Ryan. Like, give your man card up to Ted because he just stole that along with every ounce of dignity you have ever acquired in your life. It was very chicanerous and deplorable.
I'm going to stand up for Ryan here and call Ted a bad teammate.
He was. So I don't know what those two words mean, but it wasn't a good act.
So I'll add to this. So he called it early on. Again, perfect line for my glove, but he made the catch. And I told him, I said, I'm glad you made that catch because I would have owned you. So as he's
I had my back up in the perfect spot the way I was looking at it.
As he's walking away, like everybody knows, like we got a pretty fun team. There's no egos. There's no nothing, right? Like it's a good time. I thought it was pretty funny. So he's walking away. I said, "Oh, you're going all Ken Griffey on me." He didn't get the reference. So after the game, I don't know if any of our listeners, viewers have seen this, or if you guys have. I'm sure you have. I think it was Ken Griffey's rookie year or the year after when he played with his dad on the Mariners, and they're playing against the White Sox. Anyway, pop up going right to senior. And he's got a line on it. Perfect play. Puts his glove up right at the last second. Junior comes in, makes the play. Same thing that happened in our game on Sunday. And he grins at his dad as he's walking up for the third out and just grinning. Well, his dad gave him crap on the bench in the right between the innings. It was so funny. I'll have to post the clip a little bit later. I think
Ryan
I did on Twitter
already.
Me
crap after, and he took my electronic privileges away for the night.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good, but I did make up for it at my last at bat. We allow bunts in our league, and I decided to shock the world and throw a few bunts down. Both teams had a pretty good laugh. Ended up swinging on the third strike. It was a good time. We won the game like 15-4. Good times had by all. Celebrated with a beer. Everybody's happy. So
that's great.
But you know what? It is me who usually has the last laugh. So. Ted, you and I were texting yesterday, I think, right? Kind of.
I think like every day.
Yeah, like back and forth. And there was a funny joke, and I was just noticing Chris has this hoodie on tonight. And I mean, Ted, honestly, when it comes to hoodies, like who's got the best ones, right? Like, who's wearing the best hoodies out there? It's fine if you don't want to say. That's fine.
I don't want to say it.
Some it's not a hoodie, but I mean, if we were going to say sweatshirts, maybe it's you that wears the best sweatshirt.
That is the best Photoshop I have ever seen. Look
at the size of my neck. That's like a horse. Do you see how disproportionate my head is to the rest of my body?
Did you swallow an iPad?
Yeah,
oh, man. Yeah.
So we can
right there.
We can unphotoshop Ted on that, and that Browns and our regular Thanos. This is what it looks like actually. We'll just pop this up quickly. So it is available. It's all over. So this is a normal looking version of the shirt.
That guy's head also looks too big.
Wow.
I just grew a beard. It's fine.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing.
You're turning sideways.
So go pick it up on the Dean Blundell shop, and you can be like Ted in about 4 weeks. So let's get to the fun.
Oh my god.
That was good. I'm glad you all enjoyed that. Let's get to the main part of the show. Welcome to Thanos Stars.
Thanos Stars.
Okay. First and foremost, because I ripped on you, Ted, who is your Thano for this week?
My Thano for the week is Jamichael Hasty. This was a guy I think we had added to Thanos like throughout the weeks that had gone by in the previous season, but now he's in Jacksonville. We got a couple of guys there, and Travis Etienne and James Robinson, who have had themselves some good seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of nowhere, Jamichael Hasty turns up with this beauty.
Absolute monster.
They give it to Hasty, the third running back, and there he goes! Jamichael Hasty! All the way for a touchdown! They've got Etienne and Robinson, and it's Hasty who comes in and lights it up on 3rd and 1.
And then gives the Barry Sanders celly after, because he's so far ahead of the game, there's not even a referee to hand the ball to. But the guy finished with 57 yards on the day on 3 carries. 61 of them came from that, which means that he went -5 yards on his other 2 carries, guys. Ridiculous.
He's lined up for MVP so far.
Yeah, owned in 0% of leagues. That helps no one.
Man, his fantasy owners must have been so mad when he broke off a run for a touchdown, and then they're like, okay, I'm up in my league. No, his other 2 carries went for -5 yards. Jamichael.
You said he's owned in 0% of leagues, so
that
if even at 0.1, there's some guy just picked him up.
He's on some roster in a 18-team league where you have to start 17 players or something like that, and that guy won his week for sure.
Yeah, by 0.1.
Yeah,
by 0.1. Chris, who is your Thano this week? Yeah, I know this is a boring show. I agree.
Yeah, yeah. My lack of sleep is helping no one right now. Going with the guy. I mean, the Atlanta Falcons. Everyone's pissed off at Arthur Smith. He's not using his tight end enough. He's not being involved in the play enough. Not his snap percentage isn't high enough. They're not feeding him the ball. His targets are down. And I guess that case can still be made for Kyle Pitts because all those things are still happening. And instead this week, it was the guy just activated off the practice squad, Michael Pruitt, all name
Michael
team,
and your call.
But that still helps no one.
Lose a 2nd and goal here for Atlanta. Mariota floats towards the end zone. Hauled in. Touchdown, Michael Pruitt.
Man goes deep on
the
that
worst balls ever.
Michael Pruitt.
8-bit Tecmo football.
He's making more money than I am, though.
Those Falcons red helmets are pretty dope, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dirty Birds.
Also, Michael Pruitt has sneakily made his way through 2 seasons of this show.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Once last year, and I feel like he was used maybe by someone else as well. So
I think I had him last year.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He pronounced his name.
He was like your set it and forget it starter last year in like actual fantasy football, I thought.
Lock it in. Lock it in. I almost didn't make a trade for George Kittle because I had him. So turns out now I could have both of them for free. Let's go with me. So I was really excited. There's a lot of options in the group chat this week for picks. And then Sunday Night Football wasn't Cooper Rush, and I'll own that. Folks. It almost happened though. It almost happened.
Just
and
like
that would
your
have been awesome.
bunt strikeout, you definitely struck out on that pick.
Almost happened though.
It almost happened. I went
almost happened.
Full swing city. So you know what? I don't mind striking out.
Was it not like full send? It was like full placement.
Well, the first two were placement. The third one, I figured, wow, what if I bunt and get out? Well, what if you miss when you swing? And that's what happened. So, my man, Dallas Cowboys legend, Jake Ferguson, lighten up the show, and this is a pretty impressive play. He might not be a Thano for long. He might turn into a sneaky start by next week.
You saw C.J. Gardner-Johnson hesitate for just a moment. That's something.
That was the quickest we've ever had.
That's like a big man in the paint right there. That's what that looked like.
Like when you're working on core exercises, but standing up instead of laying down. So it's kind of what he's doing. So he had 4 catches, 40 yards, and a TD. Not a bad night when no one knows who you are. So again, that helps nobody. That helps no one. That helps not a soul. That helps no one.
Yeah, I like the dangle. That was good.
It was impressive. It was impressive. Sometimes you have to have a little bit of style to get on the show. There was also no Jody Fortson touchdowns this week. 2 weeks in a row.
Oh, we're going to be watching a game, and the chat is just going to blow up when Jody Fortson gets his next touchdown. Like, mine, no dibs.
Yeah, you'll know. Yeah. Eventually, he'll become a must almost.
I'm gonna sneaky start him at one point this year.
Ryan, your fantasy team is so bad, you might as well just add him. Like, let's just
have him anyway.
The pleasantries here. He might be the best player on your team every week if you start him.
Well, he would be, because I'm looking at my entire bench is either out or on a bye, and only one of those guys is on a bye. Calvin Ridley suspended. Everyone else is out. I have Jimmy G.
Saw that. Can you not put Calvin? Like, is there not an option to put Calvin Ridley in an IR spot when he's sus?
He's not injured. He's not.
Yeah,
injured.
I think if you set, it depends on how you set the extra roster availability.
Yeah, somebody needs to talk to our commissioner. That guy's sus for sure.
He's okay.
I'm sus. All right.
Mid.
All right. We'll have it out. We'll have it out among us.
Super mega disgusting.
Yeah, mega bussin'. Steve, who you got? I don't even know what that means. I just heard them saying it last week. Who's your Thano this week, bud?
My guy steals the all-name team, maybe award of the year. I think we might be able to call it, even with 12 weeks to go. No, you had to be watching at least one of the games where I obviously wasn't watching the Saints play, but
yeah, had to be. I wasn't watching.
You have to be. Well, okay, so I obviously wasn't watching.
So you had to be watching somewhere where the replay happened right away, and the announcers trying to say, and they just kind of like stumbled on it because they didn't know how to say his name, and it like gave like the best tongue twister. So Rashid Shaheed is my Thano of the week. And a little fun fact for you, he dominated yards per carry this week with a whopping 44 yards per carry on this beautiful run.
He spends most of his time in the quarterback room as a quarterback. This is Rashid Shaheed, and Shaheed breaking inside the 10 to the 5, touchdown.
So he had 44 yards and a touchdown. Of course, he's going to have 44 yards per carry. But, you know, another nice little kind of move, a fun little juke to get the defender to go to the sideline, cuts it back up the field. It definitely didn't help me being an Alvin Kamara owner. So I just believe that helped nobody because it didn't help me. And what a fun name to say.
I like it. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention on the Sleeper app. I apparently haven't because my team's awful. But after each week, they come up with like bench warmer of the week. Have you guys looked in the chat portion of this? Have you seen this?
Oh, I've seen it once.
So I was just looking, realized. So like our buddy Darren had the tight end bench warmer of the week with 2.3 points. Apparently, that's really good.
There's probably not many teams carrying multiple tight ends. So
yeah, bench warmer of the week for wideout was Allen Robinson, 12.3. That was Kyle. Running back was Deion Jackson. Now he had a monster game, 18.1 points.
That was me.
And Trevor Lawrence, our good buddy Devin, 26.9. And then obviously it goes from tight end of the week, all that kind of stuff. So interesting. So maybe we should we don't even have to do any homework. We could just wait till Tuesday morning and just find out who is on there and just add them. all the work's done for us. I don't even have to ask anything of you guys.
Speaking of having Trevor Lawrence on your bench and him being top bench warmer performer of the week, I had a conversation with a guy in one of my leagues about carrying backup quarterbacks. What's your guys' stance on that?
Like on the same team?
Yeah.
Depends on the team, I guess.
I typically don't do it. If your starting quarterback is mid, you may want to get another mid quarterback to like slot them in and out. But I mean, really, you may as well just be streaming at that point and save that extra roster spot for a running back or wide receiver or something like that. I typically don't carry more than one tight end either, but I'm breaking all my own rules this year.
You got to make room for Disley.
You got to make room for Uncle Will.
I'm of the mindset that you're gonna stream your backup and start whoever it is in week 7 or 8 that your bye happens to come along and play the matchup for whatever it is, spending like one fab buck on a guy like Ryan Tannehill or something like that because he has the best matchup. Until you get to like anywhere past like trade deadline or something like that, depending on when it is, if you can secure yourself like a good backup quarterback for the playoff run. But other than that, like there's so many guys in these leagues that carry multiple quarterbacks early season. It seems crazy to me. I don't know.
This is my quarterback. This is my teammate. This is my quarterback.
It's my quarterback.
Hi. I think it also depends on what you are doing in the league. Like Ryan and Chris are clearly not going playoff bound. There's no point of them streaming a second quarterback. They might as well take a roster spot on a rookie.
I'm streaming my first quarterback every week right now.
It can't get any worse. For me, like,
I'll prove you wrong.
If something goes down with Lamar, like Lamar is starting for me for every week except for his bye week. But should he go out with an injury, you're probably not contending for a championship if you are trying to stream Ryan Tannehill for 2 fab bucks versus a guy that has Josh Allen. So you might as well. It's not looking the greatest for me because the guy that I picked up was Aaron Rodgers. At the time, it seemed like a good decision. It isn't working out very well right now, but hopefully he can figure it out. And I have kind of like a safety net in place, kind of like a handcuff, right?
What's that?
Yeah, I think that's the push, right? If you're starting like a Lamar or a Mahomes or an Allen or something like that, it makes sense to gather yourself up a backup. But if you're starting one of those like mid-range guys,
see, I disagree. If you're starting the Mahomes and Allen, a Lamar, that's your clear-cut starter.
Sure, unless you. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Find someone to fill in for the bye week. Stream someone for that 1 week, and that's otherwise your clear-cut starter. I mean, if injuries happen, sure, but like I would rather use that extra that roster spot on a different position than having a guy sitting on my bench for 15 out of 16 weeks.
I mean, you can get away with starting at Derek Carr or something like that for 1 week, and you're probably going to be. If you have a good enough team, you're going to probably be fine.
Yeah, those are the guys that I find it odd, where the guys that have a Derek Carr, but then they're also carrying a Mariota or something like that. Like that's where it seems crazy to me. Like I have a Mahomes and I'm going to go out and get myself a backup quarterback for the playoff drive or the end season push. Early on, I'm not carrying one, although it makes sense what Steve's saying too. But it's kind of neat. I think that's what I love about like this portion of the game is like all the different strategies for managing your roster.
For me, if I have to weigh out the option of having a safety blanket in Aaron Rodgers, who right now he's not a safety blanket. If I have to start him, I'm in a little bit of trouble. He should be a safety blanket. If it's between that and picking up, I'm just looking at our waiver wire right now based on a flex position. Like, am I picking up a JD McKissick, Braxton Berrios, Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki type thing? Like, is that actually worth that much more of a roster spot to me? Who those guys are never going to start on my team because, I've been making some trades, but I'm kind of going all in to win. I would rather have that backup.
Yeah. How about like if you were in like PPR?
What's PPR? Sorry.
In case anybody forgot, PPR means points per reception.
Even then, I just think like at this point in the season, and it still is early on. Actually, you know what? Scrap that. At every point in the season, you start your studs. Like our buddy Nick in our league asked me, should I start Kyle Pitts or Big Bob Tunyon? And I was like, don't overthink it. You start your stud. Just because the matchups were in favor of Tunyon. It turned out to be the difference of like a point. But you always start your studs. You can live and die with your studs. Like for me, I have Cooper Kupp, who I just traded for. Obviously, Ted made fun of Ryan.
How's that looking?
It didn't look that great. He had a 9.7 points in our league. Didn't do the
that's the beginning of the downfall right there.
0.5. Like all of my keepers, my guys I went out and traded for, did not have a good week. But I can live and die with my best players not producing on a particular week. If I overthink it and tinker and put in Bob Tunyon and he gets me a goose egg, meanwhile Kyle Pitts goes off for 3 touchdowns like we know Kyle Pitts could easily do, then I'm kicking myself in the ass being like, what were you doing tinkering with your lineup?
I love this one, right? Because that's we've had similar conversations with other people. What am I supposed to do with Pitts? Like Big Bob is like the perfect example, right? Like, what are you going to take the projected 4 points from Tunyon? Or are you going to take the probable 4 points from Pitts, but also could score you 20 points? Like, it's just a no-brainer at this point. Yeah.
And you've heard that, like, I mean, obviously on other shows, definitely this show. But how many years, like, who needs to say that to you to make it true? You start your studs every single year. You will, if you have a good team or if you have that handful of good players, you always start them. There's no reason not to. If you go 4 weeks and that guy hasn't had a touchdown, or like a McCaffrey, if he hasn't even hit 50 yards in the last 4 weeks, you're still going to start him. You have to.
I didn't start my stud one time.
And you pay for it.
And
you do it one time.
Well, I started another stud, but it was bad. I had a studier stud, and I didn't start.
Well, okay, so
I believe it was when you left Patrick Mahomes on the bench, wasn't it, Ted?
Yeah. Like Patty Mahomes on the bench for Matt Stafford, and although I was validated, I still feel gross about it.
And that's why you don't carry more than one quarterback. Wouldn't have even been a question if you only had Mahomes.
Well played, sir.
I like where he's going. I like where he's going with this. Let's get to the second segment. Sneaky Snarts with Taylor Lewan.
Why did we pick Lewan?
I just was in Photoshop.
Oh.
That's a better one than having you on that sweatshirt, but it's just because he's so big, so it's not sneaky. It's kind of like oxymoron kind of thing. Like clearly, it's not sneaky because he's massive. That was the joke. I think it makes sense, and I've over-explained it now. So, Chris, who is your sneaky start for the week?
I wrote it down. I don't know how sneaky it is. He was started in 57% of leagues last week, which is still, in my opinion, surprisingly low for a guy that is a tight end one. And that is Gerald Everett. Chargers are playing Seattle this week. Of course, the Seahawks, they did play better defensively this past week, but they are still bleeding points to the tight end position. I think Zach Ertz had 7 catches for 70 yards. And Kyler just missed him on a touchdown this past week. And of course, it's a revenge game. So I'm going to say if Gerald Everett is sitting on your bench, or if he's somehow sitting available on waivers, go pick him up, get him in your lineups this week. He's going to be a strong play.
Those 4-team leagues, 6-team leagues.
I think
he's going to be out there.
He was only rostered in, I think on Sleeper, it was like maybe 70%. Like, again, it was surprisingly low.
30% still pretty high.
Okay, no, sorry, he's owned in 80%, but he was only started in 57%, which, like I said, that's surprisingly low for a guy that, I mean, especially when the Chargers don't have Keenan Allen right now. That's just more targets going towards the tight end.
I like the idea that Ted's going to be able to pronounce his sneaky start this week. So, Ted, who's your sneaky start?
My sneaky start is Tyquan Thornton.
Oh, you got it.
The correct pronunciation. But I'm going to start this guy. I know it's going to be like his second game in a row since being injured in the preseason, I believe, with the collarbone.
What the heck did you write in this? 5% roasted? What is he, a comedy?
Yeah.
Is he like a chicken or something?
So this coffee bean is 5% roasted. Second round draft choice. I mean, he's got 4.28 speed, 6'2", 180. So he's a big body too. And like, honestly, all these targets are going, to Kendrick Bourne, and that's fine and all well and good. And there's all sorts of good things about Kendrick Bourne, but I'm positive the Patriots want somebody else to step up in this offense and be the WR that they need. And this guy does a little bit of everything. So I watched him play in Cleveland, and he was coming out of the backfield and run plays. They were using him in the slot. They used him in like a couple of deep threat games. And he is a big talent. We know this from the draft from this year earlier. One of those guys that was sort of sitting out there and injured, and people didn't know what to do with him. He didn't end up on a lot of IR rosters. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to start this guy, Bellatrix included, right? I mean, that's kind of the way that it goes with Belichick. You have a big game from the guy. You never see it back to back. We've seen it a couple times now with Ramondre Stevenson seems to have taken over that role. And I feel like there's rumors going around about them incorporating more West Coast stuff. And that sort of feeds perfectly into the type of player that Tyquan Thornton is. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Just didn't really like seeing him do it against the Browns.
Fair enough. I like that. Chris, I think we had like a theme this week for our sneaky starts. I too am going on the revenge start with Evan Ingram. He's playing the Giants this week. Over the last 2 weeks, he's had 16 targets, over 100 yards. Not a bad option to get him involved. I mean, again, it seems like tight ends are name of the game the last 3-4 weeks here. So, I mean, you're looking for someone to find a spark on your team. And I mean, Evan Ingram doesn't suck. He's definitely not a household name anymore, but people do remember him. Put him in. You might be surprised if you need a guy in your tight end. And as we get into bye weeks, like these are the kind of guys you got to go on track record of what they have done. Again, past 2 weeks, he's put up 100 yards and he's had a fair amount of targets. So against the Giants, who, I mean, they're a tough team apparently this season, but worth taking a flyer on him. You never know. I don't mind being right at least once this season. So go after Evan Ingram this week. Steve, who is your sneaky start?
I had this guy on the sneaky ad last week, and if you listened to me and you added him, you're giggling all the way to the bank. I had Alec Pierce of the Indianapolis Colts. If he's still available in your league, you should add him first, and you should start him. He's getting a higher percentage of the snap share, a high number of targets still. He's got another favorable matchup with the Titans. This to me is an absolute no-brainer. You have to start this guy, but he is still available in leagues. So I'm not sure what kind of leagues are out there. Maybe there's like 4-team leagues and he's like
standard PPR.
But he definitely, and especially if you have a league like ours where rookies are, valued maybe a little bit higher, start Alec Pierce.
Wow, the private chat is it's getting pretty sus, I think is how the kids would say. It's getting a little bit sappy. Let's get to our sleepy starts, which is quite fitting because Chris looks like he's fading. So, Chris,
yeah,
I know you got stuff to do tonight too, buddy.
I know.
Fire away. Fire away with your ad, and you can even go if you get this, if you do a good enough job. If not, I'm forcing you to sit here.
To
I
excuse
can just walk
yourself from
away.
the
You could
table.
just walk away. Who's
My
your ad?
sleepy ad this week is Kyron Williams, running back for the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, all this talk about Cam Akers, philosophical differences. He's going to get traded. It sounds like Akers' time in LA is done. Williams is currently sitting on the IR. He's a rookie running back. He had apparently carved out a role for himself heading into week one. The coaches loved him in preseason. They loved him in training camp. But he went and got a high ankle sprain, had to get surgery, and got placed on the IR. So he's out for 6 to 8 weeks. So the Rams are on their bye this week. So who knows? Maybe next week he starts coming back and practicing, and we see him return. So I'm not saying he's going to be a home run ad by any means, but definitely someone that's worth going picking up and stashing on your bench or stashing on an IR spot for now to see what happens.
Well done. You can leave at any time, Chris, or you can hang around and talk wax poetic about everybody else's team. Ted, who's your ad this week? Who sleeps and who ads for you?
So a bit of the theme. My sneaky ads this week. So I'm going
Sleepy
to the
ads. Follow along. We have words for these things.
I'm going to the New York Football Giants, and I'm adding myself Wan'Dale Robinson, wide receiver. So. Like I said, bit of a theme here. So we're talking about an injured wide receiver with a draft pedigree and some outstanding physical skills. So playing in only his second game, it's obvious that he has talent that's going to jump off the sheets. He flashed a little bit in this last game. The Giants are obviously a very run-heavy offense, but the ball's got to go somewhere once they start hitting play action. And again, this is a guy that's been playing a bit in the slot, so I feel like he's going to get the ball. Plus the other moth-eaten pieces that are sitting there, I don't even feel like I need to mention because they're just not going to play. So Wan'Dale, pick him up, stick him on your roster. He's still available in like 21% of leagues. You don't necessarily have to start him right away, but this is a guy that you should probably be keeping here until he starts to flash more consistently. And I feel like a lot of these guys, they start to figure it out probably around week 7, 8, or 9 before they really get rolling. And these are the types of guys that you want to have on your roster. Not some of these sort of grizzled vets like the Kendrick Bournes of the world that are only going to be good for like the 6 to 8 points. These guys could potentially blast out for more than that.
And he's going to outperform Sterling Shepard, no problem.
Well, Sterling Shepard's another perfect example of a guy that I would add later than Wan'Dale Robinson.
Except that he's injured for the rest of the season.
You know what I'm talking about? That type of player, right? Like we're looking at like the
would add him
who we know. We know what they are, right? There's not any ceiling that's going to come from that where you're going to get that from a guy like Robinson.
Where's that football advice or football knowledge button when Ted says to go pick up Sterling Shepard? That would have been a perfect time, right?
Who said to go pick up Sterling Shepard?
Like you should do that.
World's most okayest host of this show.
Well, someone's got to do it. Steve, who is sleepy enough that you would like to add this week?
I would like to also go to a second-year receiver with lots of upside. We're going to the Arizona Cardinals. They didn't look very good. Hollywood Brown is looking like he could be out for a significant amount of time, depending on what that second opinion is on his heel, foot, whatever it was. They did just trade for Robbie Anderson, so that's the obvious play that people are going to like Ted said, the veteran who's there, who's going to establish a role. I think Rondale Moore is more suited to replace that Hollywood Brown type role.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. He's got the same kind of body type skill set as Hollywood Brown. They drafted him fairly high last year, so I know they like him. He is still available in like 40% of sleeper leagues, and he's available in over 50% of Yahoo leagues. This could be a guy who, even with DeAndre Hopkins coming back, he could take the focus of the defense, and you might have a Rondale Moore who is putting up big numbers. So that is my ad for the week.
Impressive. I too am going to go for a second-year player ×2, Mike Gesicki, Penn State. He's a 4-year pro coming off a massive week in the Miami out of Florida. Big week. He's rostered 40%.
Big Flow Rider fan.
Big Flow Rider fan. He is BFFs with Mr. Worldwide. 43% rostered. 20.
That's a good one.
I got it right.
Good pull there. Yeah.
Hey man, I'm culturally referenceable. He had two TDs last week for a solid 69 yards, 6 catches. And here's the thing, add him now. If you add Mike Gesicki now, you might get him on a better team by the trade deadline. Dolphins are listening, as it says on our Sleeper app. They are listening to offers for Mr. Gesicki. So you might be adding a guy that you have no idea is about to be a starter. And then I look like a genius. You look like a genius, and we can lose together. So just saying. Sometimes just because I find good players for you doesn't mean you're going to win. Clearly, I've said that over the week. So we all know I'm going to have an awful season. I'll be parting off my team quicker than a chop shop. But
I think this time of the league, but like Ted was talking about earlier, right before the trade deadline is a very interesting time for ads, right? Like ads after the trade deadline are just players you are trying to get to put up points to make a championship run. Right now is the time where we had a big long conversation, I think last week it was, about evaluating your team and coming to grips with what your team really is and not being blinded by just your base record. And I think the ads section right now are very interesting based on whether you are a playoff team, whether you're not a playoff team, or whether you're unsure of, like, you're sitting on the fence. There's so many different styles of ads. And we were just talking earlier in the show about the strategy that everybody has. Do you go for a Mike Gesicki who is, a starting tight end who obviously you said yes.
It wasn't rhetorical.
I said it earlier in the show, don't grab a guy like Mike Gesicki. It's better to have a backup quarterback. But it's the strategy behind, are you going for that home run shot of a guy who you want to keep for next year? Are you getting a guy that, like Mike Gesicki is a great example. If you pick him up before the trade deadline and he has a couple good weeks, there's always people looking to bolster their tight end spot going into bye weeks. Not having the Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce, could you get a 5th or 6th round pick out of a Mike Gesicki if he starts kind of blowing up a little bit? You basically get an ad, which turns into a free draft pick for next year. So that kind of a strategy can't be. I'm not sure what Chris is doing there, but that's
the clip. That's the clip of the show right there.
Clip of the week right there. Like,
48 minutes and 49, so 40 seconds. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dash players, get draft picks. Chris, you're the worst.
That's so awesome.
I was listening.
But you're right, Steve. Leading up to that, like, if you're one of the sellers, if you're a team like myself and you're likely going to be out, start finding these what you believe to be diamonds in the rough for the contenders. You have time to look at the waiver wire. The really good teams, they go there when it comes to bye week season. They don't need to be slumming in the waiver wire and looking for free agents because they don't need them. Guys like me, I'm trying to find, like, who's the 5th wide receiver for, like, Jacksonville. Who's the guy that, like, you got a hot tip from, like, the 8th podcast you listened to this week? Like, you should really be looking at the guy in the practice roster for the Bears. I'm hearing really good things about this guy. They're going to give him a shot. The people that are contending don't care about these guys. If you hit a home run, that's on you. Great. You can make some money. They might just need him and they'll float you a rando pick or someone that maybe helps you as a keeper for the following year. They just want to win. So there's again, find your trade partners, but there's the two schools of thought. As the sellers, go and look for those guys. Do all of your homework and be one of those people that people can come to you and basically pick you apart like vultures. And then you get some draft picks for next season because clearly your season's over and life's awful for you. But for the really good teams, they know you're going to be doing all the work, and then you just find the right ones and make sure that they give you the right things. So
I would also like to say that there's something called the Ted Wong strategy, which I will never forgive him for. But if you are,
Position field.
yeah, if you are a team that has, maybe an aging wide receiver or an aging running back, and you clearly know you're not contending, and this player could be used as depth on a contending team, like, so the one I'll never let him forget about is, I think it was like 8 years ago or something like that. Wes Welker for the Broncos at the time, and Ted was like, "Hey, you're making a championship run. You need to get some depth on your bench." And I was like, "No, like I'm fine. I'm okay." And he's like, "Well, I've got Wes Welker." I'm like, "No, I'm actually like really good. I don't think he's going to do anything." He goes, "But if you have an injury, you are going to want a guy like Wes Welker on your bench that you can plug and start," which in his defense was not incorrect. But he talked me into giving him a 5th round pick for Wes Welker, who did nothing for me. I didn't touch him at all. I didn't think about starting him in the lineup. I didn't have any injuries. He didn't even put up points. So even if I had an injury, it wouldn't have helped me anyways. But if you are a selling team, do not hold on to your 30-year-old wide receivers or, 30 or late 20-year-old running backs that you have no business keeping in a keeper league. Sell them off, get yourself some assets, get younger at your team and positions.
Trade it in like Tom Brady's going to do.
Steve, any interest in Brandon Cooks for a playoff run?
Shut up. Also,
Cam Akers is available.
I think in the Google Docs you said something about like how fantasy football is stupid or is a farce.
I said it's a farce.
It's a farce. So I would like to vent my very angry rant of the week, where you're getting into bye weeks and you're a contending team and you just happen to go up against the guy that you are trying to catch in the standings, and this lucky SOB gets to not face my 2 top wide receivers of the week.
That's the worst.
It's the worst.
That is the worst. When you finally get that matchup and you don't get the matchup.
You might go undefeated, but if Chris gets that 8 spot, you can kiss your season goodbye.
He just sits there owning the moment.
Just owning the moment. Taking hairs off myself. I'm done.
Oh my God.
It's like watching Gord Downey when I was watching Tragically Hip, and he was playing with like a tissue the entire concert, just like hitting it in the air for like 2 hours.
Yeah,
like,
I was doing that last week,
man. Just that you weren't exactly. Well, you were technically hitting the tissues, just in a different way. That's all.
Sometimes a fella gets bored.
I mean,
I had a lot of free time.
Apparently, so much free time. You said not to even show up. So I have so much time. I don't even want to be here.
Yeah.
I don't even want to be here.
Yeah.
Guys, we're getting into week 7, so now we're officially into crazy seven bye weeks. Good times. I think Chris, do I have you this week?
I have no idea.
I mean, wouldn't that be cool if I beat you?
You probably will. I have. I don't even know.
I don't even know.
I don't even know.
Like
drunk right now?
It's like football.
Oh no, I got Kyle this week. I might actually win. We have awful teams.
Yeah,
it's not good. It's not good. It's fun. It's when you like Steve. You said you've got Ted this week. Yeah, he doubled up on me. So watch out.
Look, he doesn't.
I scored 60 points. It was a big week.
Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
What's that? Sorry, I missed that.
I said you don't have to go up against Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson this week, so consider yourself lucky.
Yeah, I think my only guy for a bye this week is Gabe Davis.
Steve's just creating excuses already. Just get over it, Steve. Just get over it, man.
Steve personified. Under promise, over deliver.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, I got some extra tissues if you need them.
Slightly used.
You're out of tissues, bro.
The middles are used, but the corners are just fine.
A pile of them.
Oh, gross.
I can tell you they soak things up real good.
You got to double up. That's the rule.
Real good, Clark.
Yeah, got to double up. That is it for week 6 of That Helps No One FantasyCast on the Brando Network.
we should also mention these bad boys.
Oh yeah. So I got a day off at some point this week before the weekend. I'm going to do some mail outs. Got a bunch of stickers for those guys and for our other show. If you would like some stickers that are super, super cool that you can put on your skateboard or on a lamppost or at your local McDonald's or your dresser or your alarm clock or like your kid's face or something.
Maybe your boombox.
Yeah, maybe you have a Sanyo 3-disc boombox changer. You could do that. So hit me up. You know where to find me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm available. And get yourself some stickers. You could be cool like us, just like on our show. You can pretty much be us. And that's not really a stretch. It actually doesn't take much. You could hack.
We're trying to advertise here. You could be us. Ooh, well,
maybe don't want to be us. Follow us along on YouTube. You can go on our Twitter account. Make sure you're following there. Make sure you follow all these guys. You can see their handles. At the bottom of each of their screens. Make sure. Chris, thank you very much. It's going to take Steve like half the end of the show to figure this one out. He's doing what Chris was doing like 10 minutes ago. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I think week 7 is going to be a lot of fun. I hope. I'm just looking for a win. What did you do? What did I miss?
You were not paying attention.
I wasn't. I'm gonna watch back, and it's gonna be embarrassing. I'm sure.
Just before the 57-minute marker, make sure you
got 57 mark. So 48 mark and 57 minute. Yeah. So on behalf of Chris and Steve from the Ballhawks, Ted, and myself from the PP1 podcast, go check out our swag. Go buy that shirt. It's like the NHL All-Star from like the 80s. It's awesome. We made that just for Ted, the Browns one. It's pretty swag, as the kids say.
I think it's all the stars. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. The gaudiness of it, eventually you'll forget about. Yeah, check us out. That helps no one. FantasyCast, Team Blundell Network. Good luck in week 7. Hopefully your week is better.